Guardians drop a series for just the second time in the past month. Steven Kwan flirts with 400, and we flirt with ever following a coherent show outline.
Subscribe to Selby is Godcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Unbelievable!
Better chance Kwan hits 400 or we have any idea where the show is going to go, and we've mapped it out in advance and everything goes to plan. What am I looking at? What is that?
That's my show prep. It's blank. Hell, here we go again.
I thought maybe I couldn't see it based on your writing. I need a microscope. Remember the old movies where they would just enhance, and nothing's really happening, but no, okay. Well, despite your best efforts, we do have some things to discuss as the Guardians drop 2-3 to the Blue Jays. I do want to get into Steven Kwan. You've promised me some electrifying statistics that I have to sift through what's real and what's not. I can't wait to get to that. I have pulled up a number of trades for the Guardians, courtesy of Baseball Trade Values, one of my favorite things. We've done this segment before. I go through and I just see some of the latest trade proposals, and I'm just going to throw them to you, and you tell me whether it's a pass or fail. Who's going to say no, whether that would be a victory or not.
Does that mean you got through their paywall?
I can still for free. I'm so cheap. I can still search the trades. I just can't do my own trades. So I've got a number of trades that fans have proposed. Or maybe, you know what? Maybe this could also just be Colorado Rockies front office members going on here and plugging this. I don't know. Do you think there's any possibility that front office members of teams go to Baseball Trade Values and anything they're thinking about doing, they actually plug it into the machine to see what it does?
So that wouldn't be the Rockies because the Rockies don't know yet that teams assign dollar values to players like that.
Oh.
So you're one step ahead.
Tell me there is, somebody in some front office does that.
I know that. I'm trying to think if it's more. I know that the website is known by some executives. I don't know if they use it. I don't think they need to, because I think they all have their own valuations and internal system that can do that.
Wouldn't you want to know? I mean, even if it's just this website, wouldn't you just want to put your own, what you've got to the test? I mean, I don't know because I'm not a paid member of their new site, so I don't know how frequently it updates. I know they used to do just benchmarks throughout the year. Things would update, and so you would look at this and you'd say, well, this guy doesn't align with what his current value would be. No, because they haven't updated it based on play on the field or whatever, a guy getting hurt, something like that. But I would be curious. I would want to know. It may not shift my thought, but I think I would at least check in to see, are we wildly off base here? Does everybody else see something that I don't? Or maybe that's my anxiety talking. I don't know. Could be that.
How often does it happen that, can you do an information exchange where you say, hey, Derek Falvey, probably not your division rival. Okay, hey, Farhan, what do you guys have? What's your valuation on this prospect in the Brewer system? And in exchange, we'll give you our valuation on the prospect that you're after in the Tiger system. I don't know. Could you do something like that?
You know how I know that actually happens? Because we used to do it. Our circle of our fake fantasy baseball league, we would do that. And to pull back the curtain on how that worked, you would have to set up a budget. And then based on how good your scouting budget was, particularly advanced scouting or prospect scouting, you would be able to tell how good a player is, especially in the international market, because everybody's reports could be wildly different. So you'd call up your best friend or send a text, hey, what are your max scouting budget staff saying about this player here?
But I don't actually think that happens front office to front office. You also would worry that you'd feed people fake info, or then Farhan would go to the Royals and be like, hey, they're after this guy. What does happen is, I know for a fact, media members get used. I've had scouts ask me for intel on players all the time. And I know, like, even front office people from time to time, probably in that regard, happened more 10, 15 years ago. I remember we have a mutual friend who used to joke that he was the reason a certain team didn't sign a certain player, right? And the player ended up being pretty good, or maybe let the player walk. I can't remember. Like that used to happen more. It still happens with scouts because scouts aren't always able to get to see whatever player or see enough of a certain player. And, I'm sitting here in the past. I remember there was a team that was looking for a starting pitcher, and I'd get asked all the time about Plesac and Savali, and it was a year where it wasn't going well for them. And I'm just like, hey man, the stats you're seeing, they support any thought that you probably have.
I know we've had that conversation before. Do you ever feel like you were getting used? In other words, do you ever get a feeling that a scout was asking you about a player purposely so that they're hoping that you would, in a story, float that they have interest? Maybe they don't have that much interest, but in trying to drum up interest elsewhere or distract, or do we think we could be that complex, or is it really just kind of shooting the breeze and having a conversation about a player doesn't really mean that some 40 chess is happening here?
Yeah, it depends, Ding, on who you're conversing with, the relationship. I mean, so many relationships in baseball are transactional, right? Like, why would front office people ever leak anything to the media? Well, a lot of reasons, like, there's like benefits for them in doing so. Either to frame something a certain way, to get a favor later on. Like, that stuff happens all the time. So it depends on who you're talking to. Like a scout actually wants intel. A front office person might tell you something, and I mean, you see it all the time too. How often do you see just someone running with something, and you look on the surface, and maybe it's a national reporter, and you're like, well, this doesn't really make sense. And you follow the team a lot more closely than they do, and you can sniff it out immediately that that's bogus. And you can tell, hey, seems like someone's getting used here. And that's why, I mean, any intel you ever get from anybody, you should be looking into doubling down, checking with another source, asking someone else's opinion. Like, that's the other thing.
No one just gives you information for nothing. I think is the point.
If a scout's
there's
asking
always
me,
something at play.
If a scout's asking me for my take on a player, I hope they know that I am not a scout, right? So it would make sense if they're asking me. I don't think that scout is going to then go tell their GM, hey, I have it on good authority that this dude is lights out. No, a lot of times if I get asked about a minor leaguer, I'm going to go to the stats page, or I'm going to go check in with somebody and try to get an opinion from a front office person. Or
but let me give you some credit. Let me give you some credit, because there are things that you might know about a player that a scout just watching even from the sidelines, or scouting the stat page or the Baseball Savant page or whatever proprietary data the team has, there are things that you could potentially know that they don't. And there's more of a chance that you know something of the human element that they don't see, or something in your everyday viewing of a player, examining them under a microscope every single night, that you might see something that they might miss. And so it could be as simple as you've had conversations with a player, and you've privately talked about the fact that his elbow's barking, but he's continuing to pitch through it. I mean, is that the case with all players? No, not every player is going to trust. Most don't trust you with something like that. But there are those few and far between chances where maybe there's something in this situation that could greatly benefit the team. And I'm not saying that they're maybe even intentionally trying to use you, but I think as a human being, you're just doing your due diligence. Tell me something that I don't know. And most of the time, it's probably nothing. But there is that chance that there could be something.
283rd consecutive episode, by the way, that we've started out 10 minutes on a topic we had no intention of talking about.
Told you.
That. Yeah, it's you have like a radar or an antenna, and you have to detect why someone's asking you something, what you can do with it, what you can tell them, what knowledge you actually have, what you think you have. I remember one time talking to a scout, and I think I was like on a jog. I was on the road, didn't have... I think I answered the call while on the jog. Then I'm trying to take notes on what this person's saying, and he's naming minor leaguers that I've never really even heard of. And then I get to the end of I get back to my laptop eventually, and I'm like, all right, what did he say about this guy and this guy? And like, wait, why would he even care about this person? What did I say? It's just, I don't know. There's a lot of people looking for a lot of different information for a lot of different reasons, and the crazy thing is, 99% of the time, it goes nowhere. But think about, especially as we get into this part of the schedule, and that scouting gets ramped up a little bit, right? You've got teams. Everybody has video on everyone, but you want to go see where a certain player is at in that moment. If you go trade for this player right now, how are they going to react? How are they going this very second? Have they made strides the last couple of months? Are they headed in the wrong direction? Have they built some bad habits the last couple of months? And, teams are looking for any possibility at this point. Like, think about if you're Cleveland, think of how many different players you could acquire. You could acquire any starting pitcher out there. You could acquire literally any position player because of your versatility and the fact that you just need another bat. And we'll get to that. There's, I don't know, they could acquire 80% of the league, right? So think about all the different people that they need to scout and keep tabs on. And all the teams that are probably ramping up their efforts to scout their minor leaguers, knowing that they're going to be in the business of trying to trade some prospects for some established veterans. So there's a lot to do and a lot of information flying all over the place. And I think the next 6 weeks is where it gets crazy, and everybody is desperate to get every morsel of intel they can get.
Speaking of acquiring 80% of the league, I feel like the Guardians need to go acquire 80% of the league when you drop 2 or 3 to the Blue Jays. I want to ask you, because I can't figure it out myself. I've been wrestling with this for a couple of hours since the game ended. We go back to... It tells you how good this season's been that I can reference on one hand the number of times we've been really frustrated about a series. We always go back to that White Sox one, right? That's an easy one to point out. It is amazing to me that I had to go back and check it myself. I know Matt Underwood had mentioned this on the broadcast, that it's the second time they've dropped a series over the past month. And it's true, going back. They are now 500 in the month of June. To me, it doesn't really feel like they've been 500, but they had a hell of an April and even better May. I don't know if maybe we've just taken that for granted because it's been such a fun ride to this point. Now, you win the opener. That's great. Then you drop the Carrasco start. It's really feeling like, to me, if you get one of those games, that's a bonus, but it almost feels like a built-in L at this point, and I hate to say that about Cookie, but it's just not going too well with him for the most part. Then you get to the rubber match, the final game, and it's a good pitching matchup by the fact that both of these starters have had great seasons to this point. So I was excited for this game. You're down early, you fight back, you tie it. Something about this game really gets under my skin. I'm probably more frustrated about this loss than I have been in quite some time. The White Sox ones, that was frustrating, but it still felt like this is a really bad team that beat a good team, and that just happens in the course of a season.
Wait, why would that be less frustrating?
We've said that.
It happened 3 times in a row.
I think it's because...
It's like half the White Sox wins.
Because it didn't make sense. Because those losses didn't make sense, and that's just baked into a schedule every year.
3 in a row to a terrible team?
I can't. This is just the way I feel. I can't reason my way out of it. Like that was
tell you
frustrating.
how you should feel.
But why do I feel more frustrated about this? I mean, this team fought back to make it close in the final frame. And they scored 6 runs, and I was ready to come in here and tear into the offense. They scored 6 runs in the finale. All right, tell me why. Tell me why I feel so frustrated.
The White Sox
today.
losses, they just looked flat, and they had just lost Steven Kwan, and we weren't sure yet that they were real. It was early-ish May, and I think we were all at that point like, okay, this was cute. Like, now they can scrap and claw their way to 80-some wins. But now it's mid-June, and they've done such a good job of stepping on people's throats. Like, you said it, like, they don't lose series. It's crazy. They dropped the opener in Miami. That's a frustrating loss. That's not a team you want to lose to ever. And they come back the next 2 days and win. And even the Sunday game in Miami, they were down and they came back. And this was different because when you get a home run from Schneemann and a home run from Rocchio and 4 hits from Steven Kwan, you should probably win. And it was a rare case of it was a rare case of one of their, I mean, really any of their relievers just having a terrible day. Like, we've seen Hunter Gaddis give up a couple hits in a run and you lose the game. Or Clase in extra innings allows the runner from second to score and you lose. Even Cade Smith had a couple rough days in Boston in freaking April. God, this bullpen's been good. Those are the only references I can make. But you haven't seen like Sandlin just couldn't get anybody out, I think, literally today. And you know, I come on these podcasts anytime they have a series like this, or anytime we're examining a defeat, and I just say, to me, it's just like, I shrug, because it doesn't change anything I think about this team. I think that they need to address the rotation. I think they need another bat, and they might need like 1.5 bats. It might need to be like an everyday guy.
Stop looking at my non-existent notes over here.
But
Don't do it.
But so to me, it's first of all, I do credit them for coming back and taking a 7-2 game, and I mean, didn't it? It kind of felt like they were going to tie that up in the 9th.
The ball left when the ball left Jimenez's bat. For a split second, I forgot that it's Kiermaier in center field. There's a lot of other center fielders that probably, I don't know, it's like a 50-50 ball for them. So I thought maybe for a second that ball was finding the gap. It didn't.
Yeah, and I don't know. That seems like a tough play. The Blue Jays have stunk this year, and you got burned by like Ernie Clement and some players that really shouldn't be burning you, but also like you trotted out Logan Allen, Carlos Carrasco, and Ben Lively. And if I would have said that here we go again. Drink.
That's your second and third best starter right there.
Yeah, but that's the point. Is they're going to need upgrades. And I don't know. I'm really curious to see. We don't have to play the schedule game today. Don't worry. I'm saving it for the very near future. Unless you want to. But this is going to be a really interesting couple weeks. Seattle, Toronto at home, 21-8 at home. Got to keep that up. And then a really tough road trip at Baltimore and Kansas City. So they're going to be tested here. And they've had all these off days. You've been able to be aggressive with the bullpen. You've been able to live with the fact that your starters go 4 or 5 innings max. Because you've had these off days where guys can recover. And that's gone. You've got a really tough stretch here. And we'll see what they're made of, I think. And I think it'll just, maybe the pressure. It's really hard to swing an impactful trade in mid-June. It's honestly easier. People will say, well, the Padres traded for Luis Arraez on like May 3rd or something. But I think it's easier to do that because no one else is thinking trade but AJ Preller and maybe Jerry DePoto. But once you get to like mid-June, a team that's going to sell is going to say, well, we're going to wait for everybody to get involved here. So there's no incentive to make a trade until it's closer to the deadline. So it's going to be a big test for this rotation, especially to survive the next couple weeks.
And despite all of the issues with this rotation, still coming out of this series, it feels like what they're missing more than anything is just a little bit more offense, more legitimate middle of the order power threats, of course, but really any sort of run production in the middle of that lineup. It's accented when you lose Jose Ramirez for a couple of days.
Who, by the way, would have been batting in the ninth inning there.
That aside, it's the issue, like you're saying, you didn't learn anything new because your captain always got to be learning something. You didn't really learn anything new that you didn't already understand before about this offense. Schneemann aside, because wherever they put him, it seems like he's just thriving, which is amazing. That he's going the same route as David Fry, except he doesn't catch, but everything else you could not have drawn it up any better for him to fit anywhere Vogt needs him in this lineup. But then you got a lot of, I mean, whether it's right field, and I know Brennan had a good day in this series, but consistently right field hasn't been great. Freeman, unfortunately, he's up at the top of the lineup in this series, and he hits into 2 key double plays, right? 2 in the finale, I think. I know 1. What's the run score? Anyway,
I don't love.
So he shouldn't be at the top of the lineup.
Kwan.
No, but at the same time, Jimenez is not. Like, if you look at their OPSs, they're pretty much identical. This is not really picking and choosing anything that's too great here. So what we're coming away with, in DH too, with Manzardo, who is not, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility for a rookie to come up and struggle a little bit, have some good stretches, have some rough stretches. You know, with Manzardo, I'm not overly concerned about, oh no, he's not going to be any good, because it's not like he's come up here and struck out 35% of the time. It's just, he hasn't really got up to speed yet for helping this offense. And that DH spot and right field spot look like 2 easy areas if you want to upgrade this team. And you said they need 1.5 bats. I was coming to the same realization in this series that we've talked a lot about going to get a bat for the middle of this order, but I think what you do is I think you make the play for the guy that you hold on to for multiple years, and then you go get that short-term DH, doesn't block Manzardo for years and years, but you go get somebody that is an instant upgrade now, that can help this offense now, and you go get 2 of those things. Maybe, but the thing is that maybe that takes you away from being able to go get that starter that you could also need. I don't know. I just feel like you really need to load up on this offense to help mitigate some of the other guys maybe coming back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah, I'm with you. They need more from Josh Naylor too. Both Naylor brothers. Is there anything Kyle Manzardo can do over the next 6 weeks to convince you they don't need someone to take a spot?
Sure. I think that's possible. He doesn't have to do
playing
as
time
much,
to be able to prove that to you.
I mean, I'm sort of fine with how they've played him. Like, we're not over, like, he's not getting buried there every single day, taking 0 for 3s, 0 for 4s, and facing all these tough lefties. I think they've handled it okay. But yeah, I mean, if he were to get on a nice stretch for 2 to 3 weeks, then that would certainly silence those concerns a lot.
Yeah, the tough thing is they've got Brennan, who will look good for a couple days and then disappear for a week. They've got, and he's a platoon guy, I think. You know, I know Schneemann has bounced all over the place, and so it's tough to get a feel for where he could fit. You know, I still don't know. Should Fry be playing 6 days a week? Like, probably until it completely flops, right? But how many days are at catcher? They really have 4 everyday players: Kwan, Jimenez, Ramirez, and Naylor. And then everybody else is just dependent on, I guess, matchups, who needs a breather, who needs to be in the lineup. And it's good because it gives guys opportunities and you've got the versatility, but they definitely need another mainstay. And maybe Fry should be hitting fifth the rest of the season. Maybe he keeps us up. But he's versatile enough that you can figure out where to play him. You know, you can decide whoever is that shiny toy that you can go acquire, then you can make the decision on who sits. Does it mean Bo Naylor becomes just a bench player because you need Fry at catcher because you acquire a right fielder? Does it push Manzardo out? Like, there's flexibility to add anybody.
That's the beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
You can go get whatever is available that you think is the right cost. And maybe that doesn't have to be shortstop. Maybe you think it's going to be easier to go get that right fielder or even the DH. But you can go get a bat and plug them in anywhere because you have so many glue guys. Because Fry and Schneemann and even going down the depth chart to guys that maybe you don't want to hit right now, all of them played all these different positions. So you can go do whatever you want to do every single day. That's such a luxury for a first-year manager, any year manager, to be able to do that. And at the same time, you mentioned the 4 regulars. For at least in the case of Jimenez, yes, you need more. For Josh Naylor, this team could benefit from him getting on one of those hot stretches like he was earlier this year. He goes on one of those, it certainly makes your offense feel a lot more legitimate. Thank goodness Jose has been incredible for most of this year. And Steven Kwan, he's having, for as many years as this franchise has been in existence, this still is a historic average hitting season that he's on so far. He is flirting with 400. Now, I don't know how do you flirt with 400? Hey.
I wrote.
Say hi to many ball players often? No?
Yeah, I have a Kwan story running Monday morning, and at first I described it as, I literally wrote he's flirting with the 400 mark, and it's not like, hey, school's out, let's have a summer fling type of flirting. And then I thought,
how you doing?
I know nothing about that. I'm 34 years old and graying and can't move and have children. And so I changed it to it's not an eye contact from across the bar type of flirting. I said there might actually be something here, something real, something that can last. Mm-hmm. No, that's not. I'm not saying he's going to hit 398.
That's what you would say, yeah,
through September. But
what would you say to convince 400 to stick with you for the entire year? What would you say? What would you say from across the bar?
Like he's at least positioned himself to where we can say 10 years from now, hey, remember that year Kwan hit like 377?
Yes.
Right? Like that. Something like that is possible. And on that note.
Okay, but real quick, I know we get locked into when you see somebody at their best or at their worst, you just think, this is going to continue forever.
Right.
But doesn't it feel like every time this guy comes up, he's going to get on base? He's going to have a hit.
Yeah.
I've never been so sure about something in my life that he's going to have a single or a double. This dude's he's going to be on base somehow.
Like, when Undertaker lost at WrestleMania and the fan that they panned to in the crowd, his face.
I knew it. I knew where this is
like
going.
That's your reaction when he grounds out to second base. Yeah. I mean, it's insane. It's like he's 3 for 4 on Sunday and he comes up to bat and you're like, okay, law of averages, the baseball gods, and also Kwan, like, just chill, dude.
Full crap.
And then he lines one up the middle. And it's greedy. It's insane.
There's something so great. I tweeted this the other day that it's just such a joy to watch a hitter this good in a season like this where everything's just working for him. But because he is so different than even a lot of other average hitters, the at-bats that he puts up, the way that he can just survive with 2 strikes over and over and over, and the amount of frustration that must be building within a pitcher, watching this dude foul off good pitch after you're executing, you're doing what you want, and this guy's just flicking his wrist, I'll survive for another pitch. And then you leave one just over, and he just serves it into left field, the guy's on base again. But it's also his demeanor that I think would piss me off as a pitcher, because he's just like up there, he swings the bat around just to keep himself loose. You ever notice he cracks his knuckles in between he's just sitting there like cracking his knuckles, just like what a guy that's getting ready to he's in line to order a coffee in the drive-thru, just sitting there like, yeah, it's my turn. Okay. I loved watching this guy operate right now, and really all the time. But just when he's locked in like this, it's such a unique thing to get to watch.
He's so good at the mental side of the game. He and I talk about this all the time, whether it's meditating, journaling, just little nuances while walking up to the plate. He knows exactly what he should be thinking when. He knows when to exhale, take a deep breath, collect himself, so that, yeah, when it's a big moment and he's behind in the count. I mean, he gets behind in the count 0-2, and he's who cares? He's not concerned. He's not stressed. You get to 10 pitch at bat with him, like, as the pitcher, like you said, you're flustered, you're irritated, you're annoyed, you're exhausted, and he's just even keel, robot, back to work, beep beep boop. Here's his single, beep beep boop bloop. Basically, I mean, it's incredible, and I also think there's maybe a greater appreciation for this now. I don't want to take anything away from Luis Ariz, who is a fascinating hitter to watch, and I'll never forget Terry Francona, like a few weeks into his career, predicting he'd win a batting title one day, and that's like all he does now. But Ariz is, and Ichiro was like this too, but that was also a different era. Kwan, like, you can collect singles, right? We've seen hitters do this. It's really cool now because there is an extra base threat. Like, I think he's got 10 doubles in 43 games, which extrapolated out would be, 35 to 40 doubles in a season. He's got 4 home runs, so he'd be on pace in a full season for like 15. And so it's cool to see, like, hey, this dude, yeah, he's hitting 398, whatever, but like also like the OPS is over 1,000. I mean, it's not just, yes, he is a singles slapping savant, but there's other stuff too. And oh, by the way, a Gold Glove defender in left field. And I it's always cool to me to see a guy in his 3rd season, because I think we see guys have success in year 1, or maybe you struggle in year 1 and it's the reverse in year 2, but there's always that 3rd year. It's like all the chips are on the table. What have you learned? What have pitchers learned about how to attack you? And sometimes I think that's the year where you really prove who you can be. Jose Ramirez struggled through 2 seasons, and then in 2016 blossomed. He learned a lot. He took his lumps. He went back and forth shuttling to Columbus. And he really, that was the year that his career took off. I think for Kwan, you're seeing the same thing. He had some immediate success in 22, a really good year. And then he said last year was full of failures that he needed to go through to learn from. And you're just seeing, like, I don't know, he's so confident, but it's also like the cool kid in school who's like, he knows he's confident, and so he doesn't need to act confident. Like, he's going to beat you, and it's just whatever.
And there's no pride or gloating or anything about it. It's just him. He's
almost makes it worse.
Go out there.
I'd be more frustrated if I was the opposition. It's like,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. He's not excited. He's not celebrating.
What?
He's just, it's what he expected.
Give me emotion other than just up there laying the bat around, and then you see him do the collecting. Like, he'll take the deep breath, blow it out, and then he resets. He's good. I mean, I know we gave him credit on the past show too, but for him to say, I want to have just a little bit more power thread, even if that means more doubles, to add that into his isolated power and drop the Ks. Well, I mean, okay, sure. And I would have to go through, maybe it's just the additional power is a result of more early count taking a shot at something. You see a pitch where you won and being ready to ambush it. And so that's not leading to Ks, because late in the at-bat, maybe he just settles back into No, I'm in contact mode. I'm in survive mode. I'm just in singles mode. But I give him so much credit for becoming a more complete player and not forget sacrificing something. He's just gotten better at the thing that he was already an elite hitter at doing, and that's not striking out, continuing to take his walks, and filling me with stats that may be factual or maybe fiction. I don't know.
Yeah, do you have a sounder ready? Let's go. The Steven Kwan game. Hit it.
Oh yeah.
You know what that sound means? No, actually we don't. But Zack has asked for something that doesn't exist yet, and TJ is doing his best. Deal with it.
I played that for my wife. I thought she would think it's so funny because I was laughing hysterically, and her, like everybody else, thinks we're just weird. We're
just here for us, whether they want to join the ride or not. We're talking about the fact that these shows go off the rails. That's a feature, not a bug.
It's true. These are statistics. They may be true. They may be false. They all pertain to Steven Kwan, or they don't. I need you to tell me.
Or they don't.
Whether the Steven Kwan statistic is fact or fiction. Ready?
As ready as I'll ever be.
Statistic number 1. It's been 45 days since Steven Kwan played an entire game in which he did not have a base hit.
Are you going to operate here in bad faith and be like, actually, it's 44? Like, am I?
No.
Do you know?
And this,
what
I'm not
saying?
including his minor league stuff either.
Okay. I'm going to say that's fiction.
May 2nd, 2024. Guardians, an 8-2 loss in Houston. Steven Kwan, 0-4. Since then...
I don't believe it.
Since then, I mean, he missed 4 weeks.
You hear me typing.
The only other game he did not have a hit is the game that he got injured in and left in the 4th inning. He only had 1 at bat. So it has been 45 days.
That's okay. That's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, ready?
Oh my gosh.
Let's keep blowing your mind. Maybe. Fact or fiction? Bobby Witt leads the league with a .327 batting average. Among qualified hitters. Steven Kwan does not qualify. He's close. He's about 18 plate appearances short. But if he did, my goodness, 398, that's quite a lead on 327, right? He would have to go hitless in his next 39 at-bats to fall behind Bobby Witt. Fact or fiction?
That's way too precise. I'm going to say that's fact.
That is fact. I mean, that's insane. Like, he's probably a couple weeks away from qualifying, and he's got a 71-point lead. I mean, I don't. When does that ever happen?
What, the lead of that long?
The lead of that magnitude?
Big, or?
At this point in the season? I mean, maybe on day 1, someone goes 4 for 4 and they're hitting 1,000, and the next closest person went 3 for 4 and they're hitting 750.
Okay. Imagine a world where we don't pay attention to knowing how good Steven Kwan is, and you're a hitter and you're every day checking the leaderboard, and you think, look at me. And you don't know how qualified things work on this leaderboard. You're just, hey guys, look at this, up at the top of the leaderboard. And then just one day, boop. It's like, I know kids probably these days would have no idea, but you are playing a arcade game, and at the time you would put your name and your initials for your high score. And just imagine, it was like you're over there playing some arcade game, Mortal Kombat, or I don't know. And your name's up there on the leaderboard, and you think, yeah, look at my nationwide leaderboard. Look at this. I can't tell if that's Mortal Kombat or Dance Dance Revolution for our YouTube crowd.
My moves are the same for both.
And all of a sudden, just like, boop, you just get your ass kicked down the board. You said 0 for 39?
He'd have to go 0 for 39.
So that was, I was looking it up real quick. You remember Luke Scott had the 0 for 41.
And then homered off Chris Perez the day before the All-Star break.
Yes. Always a Cleveland connection there. So, yes, you'd have to go on a Luke Scott-like hitless streak just to lose the lead. Not to be a bad player, but just to lose the lead or to get down to where that's okay. That's incredible. Okay.
All right, number 3, fact or fiction. Steven Kwan's longest hitless streak this season is a whopping 7 plate appearances.
Initially, I thought there'd be some fiction in here, but I just feel like this is just your ability to say some really crazy stuff. I'm going to say fiction just because I'm going through the test thing and I don't want to continue to
I mean,
mark
7
down
is
A.
insane. That's like a day and a half, right? So, yeah, that's fact. It happened a few times. I think the most recent, I know the only time he's had back-to-back hitless games came at April 21st and April 23rd. There was an off day in between, I think. And in that second hitless game, he did draw a pair of walks. He was 0 for 2. So it's even when you think you've shut him down, he's still reaching base half the time. So 7 played. I mean, that's insane. Again, I know he missed almost a month, but it's mid-June. No one's been able to get him out for more than 36 hours in a row. It's nuts. Number 4. This one's Kwan adjacent. Kwan, do you think he'll hit 350 or better? If I made you predict right now.
Well, conventional wisdom says no, because that's hard to do, but he's just defying conventional wisdom at this point. I'd say he finishes below, but that's at this point.
Not a believer. It is hard to do because number 4, in the last 75 years, only 3 Cleveland players have hit 350 in a season. Qualified hitters. Or we won't even say qualified. We'll say minimum of 400 plate appearances. Only 3 guys in the last 75 years. True or false? Fact or fiction? Yes or no?
I'll say fact. I don't know.
Can you name any of the 3?
No.
I think you could.
Just as you were laying out that question, I was trying to think. No one in recent memory has hit that high, right?
What if I give you the decades?
Am I even that, I don't know.
One player from the 50s, one player from the 90s, one player technically in the
The
aughts.
90s. 350 in the 90s? Qualified hitters.
I did 400 plate appearances,
Oh, okay. 400 plate appearances.
which is also a hint.
Is it?
Oh, I guess not.
God, I don't know. Omar had that really good average year. What did he hit? Like
333
something?
in 1999.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think. Did Lofton hit that high in 94?
That would have been my first guess, but no.
I think.
He hit 349 in 1994. Poor guy.
Get out of here. You don't fit into this exercise. Uh,
All right, well, I'm going to give you Tito Francona in 1959 hit 363.
yeah, I never would have guessed that. Okay.
And I'll give you Albert Bell, 1994 hit 357.
Wow.
But the most
I
recent,
don't remember him hitting for that high of average.
most
Okay.
recent to do it, Manny Ramirez in the year 2000, his last year in Cleveland, 351.
But he missed time, so, I mean, how good was it really?
So if Kwan is able to not lose 50 points off his batting average in the next 3.5 months, he'd be the fourth player in the last 75 years. Last player, could he hit 365? No Cleveland hitter's done that since Earl Averill in 1936. This is what I mean.
I know the game is different.
I'm not saying
I know the
Kwan's going
game
to
is
hit
different.
400.
I know
but-
hitters are built different. But that's still incredible.
Yeah. Number 5. Fact or fiction? Kwan is the first major leaguer in the last 23 years with 70 hits in his first 43 games of a season.
Again, that feels too specific. I'm going to say fact.
You are correct. It is a fact. Most recent was Ichiro in 2001. Kwan is the 7th player to do it in the last half century. And this is the majors. This isn't just Cleveland. Because only one player has ever had more hits through 43 games than Kwan while wearing a Cleveland uniform. And that, of course, as you know, I'll just say it because I know you know this, Roy Weatherly in 1936, who was a 21-year-old rookie,
One of my
got called up at the end of
favorite
June,
seasons.
73
Who doesn't?
hits in 43 games.
Oh, yeah. I remember that fondly.
All right.
Though that's all. You're just spouting stupidity at me right now.
I mean, these stats are insane. All right, number 6. Think of a spectrum, okay? And on the spectrum, on the left end of the spectrum, we have the number of Kwan's hitless games. And on the very other end of the spectrum, you have the number of Kwan strikeouts this season. Okay? And in between them, somewhere on that spectrum, is his number of 3-hit games. Now, fact or fiction?
This is a really weird spectrum.
The number of 3-hit games is closer to the number of strikeouts than the number of 0-hit games. Does that make sense?
Not at all, but I'm going to say that it is closer to strikeouts.
That is a fact. That is my favorite one. He has 7 hitless games, and one of those he had 1 at bat because he got injured. 11 3-hit games. So not only does he have, I feel like that stat has been thrown out there a bit lately. More 3-hit games than no-hit games. It's like not even close. It's 11-7 at this point. And he's 14 strikeouts all year. So he's inching closer to having as many 3-hit games as strikeouts. That's mind-blowing.
So when you place bets on Steven Kwan, not you, just in general, the general you, are you saying that what you should be winning more money on is if you bet on him being hitless and him actually being hitless? That's the greater spectacle.
Yeah. Which is nuts.
That's silliness. That's absolutely stupidity. That's When I say I'm enjoying it, this is what I'm saying. I feel like we've done this a lot with Jose, and we've explained along this journey that the reason why we're doing it, especially this year, because I want to experience the good old days and enjoy them while we're in them. And I want to do that with Steven Kwan. When you're watching something like this where somebody is doing something that not only have you never seen or maybe haven't seen in a long time, but also you have to think, like, you're never going to see it again. Or at least you're going to have to wait another long time to see something like this again.
Well,
and we talk about, remember Kipnis's, whatever.
May of 2015.
Was that a May?
Yeah.
May, when he just went crazy. And we remember that. But Steven Kwan is just doing that for the entire season.
You know, in Cleveland, we're used to it being a starting pitcher. I think back to the run Kluber went on down the stretch in 2014 to win his first Cy Young Award. And it was like, man, this guy's picking up steam. Like, he's got a chance. Like, what a story. This guy came out of nowhere, late bloomer, and he's putting himself in position to maybe win the Cy Young. Like, it was so fun to watch. Or you think about that 2008 season, there was not much reason to watch except Cliff Lee every 5 days. But that's the point, is in Cleveland, because it's been about pitching for so long, it's when someone has a season like this where it's not only appointment viewing, but you're like, if I'm at the grocery store and I know Steven Kwan's coming to bat, I'm stopping, I'm pulling up the app, and I'm making sure I'm watching Kwan's at bat. It's like that. And you've been used to only getting to experience that every 5 days because it's usually a starting pitcher here. But with Kwan, it's 4 or 5 times a night.
See, I take the other end of this spectrum. I can go into the store because I already know he's getting a hit here. Yes, Kwan's up. It just he's gonna be on base. We can go in the store now. I know Kwan's gonna be on base.
I'd have 2 more for you.
All right, hit me with them real quick because I don't. We do this game where we promote something, we don't do it. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
What have the answers so far been? I think it's been it went fact, 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 and then fact, right?
Yeah. Wait, did you say fact?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So number 7.
Yeah, it was fact. You're right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
In his last 125 plate appearances, Steven Kwan has 3 strikeouts.
Sure. Fact.
That's correct. Will Benson, one of Kwan's best friends, former teammate, meditating buddy, journaling buddy. His last 125 plate appearances, 49 strikeouts. You see the disparity here? You see how 3 is not the norm? I mean, 49 is not the norm either.
Well, I mean,
Benson is the worst strikeout rate in the league this year. Great guy. But 3 strikeouts in 125 plate appearances? Like, Kwan should have been playing in, 1887.
He still would be impressive then. I mean, you stopped wowing me 10 minutes ago, so just hit me with the final one. Now
he would have fit better in an era where his nickname was Stephen Cherry Pie Kwan, and he played for the the Toledo Hubcaps. All right, last one.
In fairness, how many hits would he have if the rules were still in place where it was an out if he caught it on 1 bounce? I mean,
I don't know. Probably he doesn't hit many one-hoppers, though. That's the thing. All right, last one. In 2004, Ichiro, who, by the way, is one of Kwan's baseball idols, grew up watching him, loved him. You'll notice some of the swing routines that he does modeled off of Ichiro. In 2004, Ichiro set the major league record. It had stood for 84 years of single-season record for hits. He had 262, surpassed George Sisler's mark of 257. Steven Kwan, in 43 games this season, is averaging more hits per game than Ichiro did in that season. Fact or fiction?
I think you're trying to trick me. I'm going to say fiction.
So close. It's a fact.
No way.
It is a fact.
I
And
blew it.
listen to this.
I
Ichiro
blew
that
it.
year, hits per game, 1.6273. Kwan this year, hits per game, 1.6279. He beats him out by 6 tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 6 10,000ths of a hit per game.
Coming up later this week at Patreon, was Ichiro even good? Patreon.com/SelbyIsGodcast. Get there. Get into the Discord. Discuss. Have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean,
This is just
that's
bonkers.
nuts. They're all facts. You can say any statistic related to Steven Kwan. It's a fact.
You played me. Totally played me. Hopefully there won't be any of that when it comes time for trade discussion. Any of the Guardians front office members getting played. I mentioned I have some trades for you. I'm going to run through these semi-rapid fire. This is our late, and we'll do this probably again leading up to the trade deadline. Here's some of the latest fan trades. You tell me whether or not you like it, whether or not you think it's close, whether somebody's laughing their way to go tell their friends, I can't believe what the Guardians offered here. Tell me where we're at. First one that's up. Guardians get Patrick Sandoval. The Angels get Kyle Manzardo and Jason Chourio.
No. Seems like a lot. Sandoval's having a... I don't have his metrics in
terms of
front of me.
trade
I do
value.
know surface level numbers don't look great. The walk rate's kind of high. The hits are kind of high. There is good stuff there. Like, he's been good in the past. He has
I think they
more
liked
years of control
Sandoval
of
in the
his-
past.
He's the type of guy they probably should look into, but that's... I don't know. It seems like a lot. Also, the Angels are a team you should probably take advantage of. Like, you should know going in that you're going to win the trade that you make with them, and I don't know that they would in that deal.
You could do that if you're trading for Taylor Ward, who is our next one here. The Angels get Jose Tena, Joan Kenzie Noel, Kyle Manzardo. Taylor Ward, solid bat.
I don't love
Still
dealing
under
Manzardo
control.
so willy-nilly like this.
His name's going to be in a few of these.
Yeah. I mean, Taylor Ward...
So you're saying
Taylor
you're
Ward's
na-
a good fit. I'll say that. But and he does have 2 more years of control. He is that right-handed hitting outfielder you need. He's been pretty consistently good for the last handful of years, although he did miss a decent amount of time. 2 of the last 3. He checks a lot of boxes.
Are you even an Angels outfielder if you don't miss time?
I would try to do that trade without Manzardo. I think you're going to eventually need both of them.
Yeah, it feels this would be the worst time to ever trade Kyle Manzardo. It feels like after you've already he's been driven off the lot, and you hit a pothole the first 10 feet, and then you turn around and head back to the dealership. I don't think so. It's not going to work out. Here's another interesting name, Brent Rooker. Going back to the Athletics, George Valera, Juan Brito. I have never, before you say anything, I've never been the biggest Rooker fan.
Mm-hmm.
He was brilliant in the first half last year and then really faded. This year, he's been phenomenal again. But still, 35% strikeout rate? It's really alarming for me.
Mm-hmm.
But Valera and Brito, that probably is a fair trade. If we're talking about what you would actually have to give up in a trade like this. It feels like that would be. I'm not saying I would do it. I'm just, in terms of value, I think that's probably fair.
Rooker's metrics are awesome too. Like there should be staying power. Now, they're awesome everything's awesome except for the swing and miss, which is the opposite of awesome. But if that does translate to an 843 OPS, you'll take that. You know, a guy who's on pace for 30-plus home runs. That's a valuable piece. That is something that they're missing. My question, where the heck is Brito going to play? You know, he's been playing a lot of first base lately.
Oakland. Yeah, first base. Setting off some alarm bells for our Discord crowd.
Yeah. I like when they're sweating things out. Let them squirm for another 7 weeks or whatever it is till the deadline.
Here's another Taylor Ward trade for you. How do you feel about Angel Martinez, Khalil Watson, Juan Brito?
Just getting rid of all the middle infield excess in one fell swoop. Can I be honest with something? I don't love most of the trade candidates this summer. It feels like a weak group so far. Like you're gonna have a ton of.
What should I do with the next
teams
two?
Bidding on Brent Rooker.
What should I do with the next two Brent Rooker and Taylor Ward trades that I still have? Okay, Joey Cantillo, Juan Brito, Parker Messick, Tim Herron for Taylor Ward.
No.
Gabriel Arias, Kyle Manzardo, Cade Smith for Brent Rooker.
No.
Yeah, I don't think that one's going to work. Here's an interesting three-teamer. We love a good three-team trade. The Athletics get Chase DeLauder. The White Sox get Mason Miller.
What are they going to do?
The Guardians get Garrett Crochet.
Wait. Chase DeLauder for Garrett Crochet. That's really interesting. I need to know more about Crochet's innings cap. Also, that I don't even need to entertain this because why would a team that never has the lead in the ninth inning try to acquire Mason Miller?
What about Luis Robert and Garrett Crochet?
Done.
For Chiriot, Ganao, Brennan, DeLauder, Francisca.
Jeez. That's a lot. That honestly might be the best one you've said yet, though. You were getting two impact players, maybe, again, like I don't know how much Crochet can help you this year. Maybe he's a reliever in the second half or something. That would hurt your farm system, but again, you have the number one pick, and those would be the two best players traded at the deadline, and you'd get them both, and the teams you're competing against would not get them. Yeah, I would think that's giving up a ton, but I'd think long and hard about it.
Save the best for last. And again, we're going to do this all throughout the trade deadline. I love just going through here. My favorite part of going through this, I haven't mentioned this yet, but there's always a thumbs up and a thumbs down. So fans can weigh in on the trade that you proposed. And a lot of times the values match because you put five players together that match the one guy on the left, right? Anybody that's done the trade machine on ESPN, well, it works as far as money goes. Sure. But you can also follow along and see what fans are thinking. My favorite is when it's somebody's clearly winning the trade, and on the one side, it's everyone's, yeah, thumbs up. The other team's like, no.
Can the White Sox also throw in Eric Fetty just for like a starting pitcher who actually might be able to pitch in August and September? The Crochet Robert package is everybody's dream, but it's also those two guys are never on the field. That's like I feel like Cleveland would be averse to that much risk. Sorry, continue.
Final one. Saved the best for last, all right? Cubs get Miles Straw. Guardians get Hector Neris.
Sure.
I'm laughing because how does one arrive at that? How does one think in the middle of the night, you know what? Let me just go put in Straw for Neris and see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, without knowing anything about Neris off the top of my head, sounds like a good deal.
It's a good deal. Who'd they get?
Right. Neris has been very blah this season for the Cubs. He's on a $9 million contract with a $9 million team option that becomes a player option if he has 60 appearances and is healthy at the end of the season. He is, he might get there, which...
I mean, he's got
the Cubs, you probably
74,
don't want him
70,
to.
and 71 appearances the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
But you're still doing the deal?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You want to make sure.
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out.
That
with
could
us,
be a
everybody.
regular segment. We'll have to turn it around on
Yeah.
you.
I'm just gonna. Yeah. And I'm sure we'll throw it out to our Discord too. Patreon.com/SelbyIsGodcast if you want to go join that Discord. And then come join us later this week for an additional episode.
I felt like I came across as a prospect hugger there. I don't like that. I'm not. Trade them all. Every prospect. See ya.